Humanitarian catastrophe. This week, Gaza was once again at the center of global attention. Relentless Israeli airstrikes have left entire neighborhoods destroyed, with hundreds killed and thousands wounded. Hospitals are overwhelmed, food and water supplies are nearly gone, and international aid groups warn that Gaza faces one of the worst humanitarian crises of the decade. Analysts point out that the situation is not only a humanitarian disaster, but also a geopolitical flashpoint. With global outrage mounting, Israel risks further isolation if the conflict continues unchecked. Meanwhile, the suffering of civilians has become a rallying cry for protests around the world, including in major U.S. cities. UN condemns Netanyahu. At the United Nations General Assembly, dozens of countries condemn Prime Minister Netanyahu's government for its actions in Gaza. Calls for a ceasefire and international investigations into potential war crimes grew louder. This diplomatic backlash is significant. Israel has long relied on strong alliances, particularly with the United States. But increasing criticism, even from traditional allies, signals that Netanyahu faces one of the toughest international challenges of his career. Some experts say this could shape not only Israel's foreign relations, but also its domestic politics. Charlie Kirk assassination. In the U.S., the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk continues to dominate headlines. President Trump announced that Kirk will be posthumously awarded the Medal of Freedom, while his widow vowed to continue his tour and expand the movement he started. But the fallout goes deeper. Critics accuse Trump and his allies of exploiting the tragedy for political gain. Supporters, however, argue that Kirk's death is a symbol of rising political violence in America. Analysts warn this case could intensify the already polarized climate ahead of the 2026 elections, raising questions about security at public events and the future of free speech in political discourse. NATO's Eastern Sentry mission. NATO launched Operation Eastern Sentry this week after Russian drones violated Polish airspace. The UK deployed Typhoon jets, while other allies sent air defense systems and naval forces to the region. Analysts see this as NATO's strongest coordinated response in years. It signals to Russia that violations of Allied airspace will no longer go unanswered. For Poland and other frontline states, it's a reassurance that NATO's security guarantees are real. But the operation also raises risks. With more jets in the skies and ships in contested waters, the chance of direct confrontation increases. US-UK. $10 billion deals during President Trump's state visit to London. The US and UK announced more than $10 billion in new trade and defense agreements. These deals include investments in energy, technology, and military cooperation. For both nations, this represents a strengthening of the so-called special relationship. Analysts note that as tensions rise in Europe and Asia, closer US-UK ties could become a cornerstone of Western strategy. But critics say the deals still leave questions about labor rights, energy dependence, and whether they truly benefit ordinary citizens. U.S. stock markets hit records. Wall Street had another record-breaking week. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq hit new highs, driven by strong performance in the tech sector and growing expectations that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates further. But analysts caution that the rally may not last. Rising corporate debt and global instability could put pressure on markets in the coming months. For now, however, U.S. investors are enjoying a wave of optimism. Climate Week NYC. Despite political pushback from Washington, Climate Week in New York City saw record participation. Companies, investors, and global leaders gathered to push forward green energy projects and discuss climate resilience. Analysts highlight a clear trend. Even if governments slow down climate regulations, private capital is moving aggressively into clean energy. For the U.S., this means potential billions in new investment, but also a political clash between federal policy and state-level or corporate initiatives. Philippines Trillion Peso March. The Philippines saw some of the largest protests in years. Known as the Trillion Peso March, the demonstrations were sparked by allegations of corruption in so-called ghost projects in flood control and infrastructure. Observers compare this to the historic People Power Revolution, which toppled a dictatorship decades ago. While it's too early to say if these protests will reach the same scale, they highlight growing frustration with corruption and governance in Southeast Asia. World Athletics Championships. On the sports front, the World Athletics Championships brought thrilling competition. Anna Hall captured gold in the heptathlon, while men's track events delivered dramatic finishes and record-breaking performances. Beyond the medals, analysts say the championships highlight the next generation of global sports stars and the growing role of athletics in global culture. Solar Eclipse 2025. Finally, millions across the Southern Hemisphere witnessed a rare partial solar eclipse on September 21st. From South America to Australia, people gathered to watch the skies darken. While astronomers note that the next major eclipse won't happen for several years, this week's event reminded us of the awe and unity that cosmic events can bring. These were the top stories of the week, from Gaza to NATO, from Washington to the Philippines. The world is changing fast, and your voice matters. Tell us in the comments what story impacted you the most, and don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our updates. Share this video to help others stay informed, because the world needs to see this.